It is 5:30. If we could call the Amherst Exempted Village Board of Education to order for the November 28th meeting. If you could all stand and pledge the flag with us, that would be great. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Mr. Engel?
Present.
Mrs. Gillis?
Present.
Dr. Messer?
Present.
Mrs. Buckles? Mr. Zappa is absent.
Mr. Zappa will not be joining us this evening because his sister passed away over the weekend, and today was the funeral, so he will not be joining us this evening. Item 4 on the agenda would be to take a motion to adopt the agenda as it's presented. A motion and a second.
Second.
A motion and a second. Is there any comments or discussion? Hearing or seeing none, please call the roll.
Mrs. Gillis?
Aye.
Dr. Messer?
Aye.
Mrs. Buckles? Mr. Engel?
Aye. Item 5 this evening is we have some special presentation, Crystal Apple Awards. Ms. Walker, I assume you're in charge of that?
I have the Crystal Apple Awards, and Dr. Messer is going to help me by passing them out. When I call your name to come up, please come up so everyone can see you and celebrate you. And I've got a little, I'd like to read the comments that were written about each of you because they're pretty fabulous. And then Dr. Messer will have your apple. So the Crystal Apple Award is, as educators, and it's an opportunity for our staff and faculty to acknowledge and to celebrate the community volunteers that come in and help out in our classrooms and in our schools each and every day. And without you, we couldn't do what we do because you bring so much back to the classroom and the kids love seeing you there. So thank you. First person I have to celebrate is Kimberly Allen, who I did not believe could be here today, but she is part of our North PTO, and she was nominated by Paula Brooks, who's one of our intervention specialists there. And Paula said about Kimberly, Kim's efforts as a member of the North PTO have not gone unnoticed. She has put so much time and work into making the staff feel so appreciated. Every single event she puts on is truly amazing. From the awesome decor to the special treats, you've been hard-pressed to find someone who can outdo her. She deserves this award, and I know so many who would agree. And then next, we have Amanda Barris, Don Clappis, and Darcy Parsons. So please come on up. The three of you are part of the AJH PTO, and you were nominated by Melinda DeFranco, who is one of our teachers here. And Melinda said, these three women make up the AJH PTO and have done an incredible job over the past couple of years, going above and beyond for the teachers and students at AJH. In the 25 years I've been here, I've never seen a PTO take such excellent care of the staff and teachers and make them feel appreciated. So thank you, ladies. Thank you. All right, please sit down. Unless you want to stand up here, that would be fine. Oh, sorry. Amanda, Doc, please. Amanda is part of our Powers PTO, and she was nominated by Lisa Davis. And Lisa said, Amanda has been a part of our PTO for several years now. She has been the treasurer, dealing with all sorts of directions and handled it with grace. We are so very thankful that she has moved our PTO organization in the new directions that we have been going. Thank you. Next, we have Elizabeth Falk. Elizabeth is part of our AJH PTO, and she was nominated by Mr. Andrew Gibson. Mr. Gibson said, Elizabeth has been a supporter of our school district since the first time I met her. Not only is she an incredible parent who supports teachers and works with staff to create the best partnership in the best interest of her students' learning, but she always goes about it in a manner that is comforting and disarming. When teachers think there may be conflict, they find an open ear, willing to listen, and take in the perspective of the teachers. Elizabeth also serves as our secretary for the AJH PTO. Her role involves a lot of volunteer hours and communication with myself and staff. Again, we are met with her warm smile and eagerness to help. Recently, she reached out in an effort to help us secure our continued recognition as a Purple Heart school. Very involved in supporting military families, Elizabeth extends those same courtesy to our staff and would make an excellent recipient. Then we have Pastor Steve Mays. Pastor Mays is part of Good Shepherd Baptist Church, and also helps coordinate the backpack program we have here at the schools. He was nominated by Jill Majorca, one of our social workers, and she says, Pastor Steve has been supporting Amherst children in need with the weekend food bag for years. He coordinates with the Leo Club and has been instrumental in supporting Amherst students with extra food, school supplies, and other resources. Thank you. And then finally, we have Nicole Waddell. Nicole is also part of our Powers PTO and was nominated by Lisa Davis. Take a long way.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Enjoy the moment. It's good. Nicole has been part of our PTO at Powers for several years now and always goes above and beyond what is needed to help our building. From shortly after the pandemic to now, she has found many creative ways to change things in a great way. We appreciate all that she does for our students and her staff and the staff. A lot of amazing hours and a lot of amazing people. Thank you guys all for being here and thank you for celebrating with us.
Would any of the recipients like to say anything?
Sure.
Sure. Okay, go ahead.
Always give a preacher an opportunity.
Since Sarah didn't, I thought I would.
Yes.
We are presently providing weekend food packets for 104 of our students here in Amherst. And I'm the pretty face for Good Shepherd, but the fact of the matter is a lot of people are involved, and we appreciate all of the help from Main Street to others in the community and the Leo Club. So I really appreciate all of us joining together to watch out for our kids.
Yeah, and Pastor, can I just for the audience and also those watching at home, is there a way that, what's the best way for someone possibly to donate? Because I know you get a lot of donations of food and items that we give to kids, but sometimes you have to supplement maybe some things that are missing, and that comes out of the church's pocket, your pocket, other actual monetary donations. So sometimes I know you share that monetary donations are very important so we can provide well-balanced food items for those backpacks. So if anyone wants to volunteer to donate to the program, what's the best way to do that?
You can send a check to GSBC here in Amherst. That's Good Shepherd Baptist Church. But when you make your check out, make it out to GSBC and then just put in the memo backpack. And that will really help out. We started out with almost a $3,000 budget, and we have already killed half of that. So we do need help.
Thank you for sharing, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Could you share with the group the average cost of one backpack?
About $10.
Great.
So for 104,
Yeah, so I'm just saying,
that's a
so
lot.
it's, over $1,000 every week that goes out.
Yeah.
Anyone else like to say anything that was the recipient of the gold medal?
Yes. I'm Darcy. I am actually on all 3 PTOs, so on behalf of all the PTO board members, our whole membership, we want to just say thank you. Because without you guys supporting us and our ideas, we wouldn't be where we are either. So thank you all for keeping us and supporting us.
On behalf of the board and administration, we thank each and every one of you who volunteer to assist with our schools and to assist with our children, because without parent involvement, we certainly wouldn't have the things that we have. So we appreciate all your efforts that go into making Amherst the greatest school district in Lorraine County. Thank you. This time, I believe we have a good news report from the principal of
Yes.
junior high.
Yes, thank you. My good news report is very simple tonight because it's my partner in crime and my best friend here, Mrs. Newhoff. So Mrs. Newhoff, come on up. My good news is actually bad news. Because if you look later in the agenda, Mrs. Newhoff, who has tirelessly dedicated herself to our community and our schools for 34 years, has hit the point of retirement, and this will be her last year here in the Amherst School Districts. And when I say tirelessly work for our district, I mean nights, weekends. Half the community has her cell phone number. We'll probably have to buy the number off of her when she leaves because it's a support line for families and people in our community. She has given everything to our community. And she really is what we strive to be, wrapped up into one person. And I can tell you that as a staff, we're going to miss her. As a district, we're going to be worse off without her. And as a partner in crime and a bestie, I'm totally going to miss you. All right, I remember when I interviewed here the first time, and Rhonda walked me out after the first round interview. And she was just so lovely. And it was a really wonderful thing. To get to know her and meet her, and she has beaten me in fantasy football multiple times, which she might tell you about. Our friendship extends beyond the school day, and she has been an absolute blessing to our children, and she is the most student-first advocate that I have ever worked with in 17 years of education. So my good news report is bad news, but it's Mrs. Newhoff. Thank you.
I'm sure you have some words.
I guess I just wanted to say that this has been the best choice for a job for me since day one. And I've been fortunate to be in several of the buildings here in the district, and I've loved every one of them. So I just appreciated this opportunity, and I'm still going to be in Amherst. I don't know what my next adventure is going to be, but I'm sure it's going to be in education. And if you have my phone number, you can still keep it. Text me whenever you want. I know you're going to be texting me. So,
Yeah, sure.
But thank you very much. I appreciate being recognized. Thank you.
Item 7, hearing of the public. We have some people that have signed up to address the board this evening. Elizabeth, if you would please state your name and address and address the board. You're welcome to come up here and do that.
Elizabeth Fott, and my address is 45605 Telegraph Road, Elyria, 5144035.
Sure.
All right.
It's all yours.
So I'm going to try not to cry, but I just want to say thank you to all of you, because we love this district so much, and we're just very grateful as a family for our children to be part of this. So as a parent, I just want to thank you all the staff and everyone who's involved with all the schools of Amherst Exempted Village Schools. And then also, I want to also say thank you, because I'm not sure if you all know, but Amherst Exempted Village Schools, they've actually been helping out a lot with the Amherst Historical Society, and Mr. Rabinski helped make a video, and we had over 32 high schoolers come out and volunteer for our Light Up the Village for Christmas event, and you know, from the continued year after year with the third graders coming out for the field trip. We just want to say thank you very much, and we're hoping to do a lot more to help support the school district. So thank you for all you do and all the hours you put in. Thank you.
Thank you. Dawn?
I'm gonna let
You can
Oak Tree Drive South. And we're just here to talk a bit about we have questions about the busing. We've had some issues since the beginning of the school year with the bus driver in our development. And we've tried addressing it even before the school year began, and it's just a continued process. BK has also been helping along with that. So we just had questions, about the concerns of our children, the safety of their children, because they're getting yelled at on the bus. There's multiple incidents. My kids are older, so they are also watching out for the younger ones back and forth on the bus. So just a concern of mine with the busing right now.
Well, just curious, what age or grade levels are your children?
Mine are freshmen, sophomore, they're high school.
Okay. And have you spoken with transportation?
We have, I have, yes, several times. Through emails as well as phone conversations.
Okay, we'll follow up with Ms. Ford and follow up with you. Okay, we'll talk about it.
Appreciate it.
Okay, absolutely. Anything else to
Yeah,
add?
Brian, BK Thompson, 8080 Oak Tree Drive North. Two-part. One, the issues, it's, I believe, communication. I've actually spoken with you on the phone. After our issues were resolved, there were a lot of other people that had similar issues or completely different, but related to transportation. And I think that's just a concern. There were a couple other people that weren't able to make it here on time tonight, but going forward, I think it's a communication thing, but I think we'd like to have some help on that. That's one part. The other part, and the big reason I'm here, transportation location. I was told or informed that Pick My Kid is active on the buses. It can be switched on for a location device, like some school systems have location. I know that I talked to a couple years ago, or one of the board members about, can we get that? And I know that the police department was looking into it. My question for you tonight is, where's it at? Where are we going? What's the plan? And can it be just turned on?
Yeah, just so you're aware, we have a couple different options that we have in the district that we're looking at right now. And we're just kind of investigating right now what are the pros and cons of each one. So that's something that we're looking at right now, and we can hopefully have something for you maybe to share in the near future. Okay.
Near future, days, weeks, months, years?
Probably after the first of the year.
But we don't have anything right now.
No, we don't have any kind of location services or any kind of ability for parents to track or monitor buses or anything like that. GPS, et cetera.
Okay. I could go on with a list of stuff of why it would be nice. And I know that some school systems have spent a lot of money, but from what I understood, there is already a system that potentially is in place. It just was being reviewed. So, all right, great, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Thompson.
I have a question on that. Is that different than cameras on the bus?
Yeah, totally separate system.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. But we do have cameras.
Yeah, all cameras are working on buses.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Molinar, we'll follow up with each of you
Yes.
in regards to your concerns. And I know that we've been looking at the tracking, and we're waiting on a recommendation to make some movement on it. Okay? We'll move on to item number 8 this evening.
I would love, I'm Treasurer Amy Giuffredo, I would love for you all to stay for the 5-year forecast, but I'm giving your do not go, tax go ho, do not collect $200 to skate if you want to. You're more than welcome to stay.
But you don't have to.
But you
don't
don't
have
have
to.
to. You can do
You don't
either.
have family.
You do either. I would love for you all to stay. I know. I get it. It's great. Yes. I would love for you to stay, really. I bet it pretty night, guys. Thank you. Yeah, I know they start to meet down. All right, so tonight we're going to.
I emptied the room.
I have a tendency to clear the room, but I just thought that it would be kind to give them that opportunity
So
to
we're
lead.
allowed to go now?
You're not.
Oh.
So, tonight is the 5-year forecast presentation. You've all sat through countless presentations. And tonight I'm going to try to do things a little bit differently, a more high-level approach to the 5-year forecast. You have in your green folder the 26 pages of assumptions and forecast documentation and graphs and all of that, which you are more than welcome to take with you and digest. You all know, too, that the basis for this report is that it's a requirement of the Ohio Revised Code. It is submitted to the Ohio Department of Education. It's semi-annual in nature. It's required in November and an update in May. Our forecast includes the general fund, Fund 001, and Fund 016, which is the emergency levy fund. It shows 3 years of revenue history. It shows 5 years of revenue projections, and the same with expenditures. 3 years history, the current year, and 4 prospective years. The assumptions that are, I don't know, just the assumptions alone are like 8 pages long, and then all of the documentation that backs it up is in your folder as well. But understand, it's not just the mechanics, it's not just the numbers on the forecast that are important, it's the written assumptions that are really important, because that determines the basis for the calculations in the forecast. So you know what the purpose is. It's a roadmap for our district's financial future. It's a means to plan for consistency. We're planning for change, and it shows what our assumptions are about anticipated revenues, expenditures, and what our cash balances will be in the future. So the obstacles on our journey, as with probably most districts out there, expenditures typically overtake revenue at some point throughout the forecast. You need a crystal ball to look into the future, right? It's uncertain. It could be uncertain in a positive manner, or it could be detrimental to the cash balances and position of the district. What we have facing us in the last couple of years changes in addition to federal awards. We received, or have been receiving, I should say, and still in the midst of receiving over $4 million in coronavirus relief funds, ESSER, ESSER 2, and ARP ESSER. That's a lot of money to spend, and what's different about these federal awards is that we're able to supplant general fund expenditures to the grant. That's normally not permitted. It's most federal grants, you spend on additional expenditures, not current expenditures that you move over to the federal awards. So how this impacts our forecast is that certain expenditures are reduced and moved over to the different federal grants. We have changes in income streams. We have changes in legislation. Every forecast has a minimum of 2 biennial budgets impacting it, and we have no idea what's going to happen in the future. We are experiencing, this is a great word, unprecedented inflation in the United States. This is a very odd market with broken supply chains, and we are seeing sharp increases in things such as gasoline, diesel fuel, repair parts, energy, other commodities. I wrote status revenue, but it's supposed to say static revenue. Static revenue meaning what we're basically assuming in the forecast is that our revenue is going to be consistent throughout the forecast. We could say that our revenue is going to increase by, some amount, but we don't know that. So I'd rather be conservative, and this has pretty much always been our approach, that we are conservative. For some of the reasons just mentioned, we have sharply increasing expenditures in some categories. And throughout the forecast, we see deficit spending. What that means is, like in the first slide, expenditures overtake revenues. So for fiscal '23, which is the year we are in, real estate revenue accounts for about 46% of our revenue budget. This is very similar. It's been the same in fiscal '21 and fiscal '20. It might change part of a percent, some fraction of a percent, but for the most part, this is the allocation. 46% in property tax, 3.94% in public utility, personal property. Our very large category next to real estate is unrestricted grants and aid. What that means, that is our state foundation revenue. And then you see the other amounts. Go ahead. So we'll talk a little bit about expenditures now. We are, again, experiencing like 8%, I believe it's down to 7.7 at the end of October, inflation in the United States. It will likely equalize at some point, we just don't know when. This happens when the Fed doesn't react, keeps interest rates low, and when there is an influx of money supply. So here I just want to talk about one of the things that are impacting us. Around about 2 years ago, diesel was $1.46 per gallon. And diesel at the end of October was $5.09 per gallon. So you just see the trend line in red. It's pretty sharply increasing in this period of time. There's fluctuation, but since, 2017, since before I started, it was probably about $1.80 a gallon. It went down to $1.46, and now it's up to $5. So we have volatility here, but we have a trend of steadily increasing, sharply even increasing prices in some categories of expenditures. So our projected expenditures in fiscal '27, that's the last year, the forecast, look very, very much like what they look like today. Almost 60%, almost 59% is personnel services, which are salaries and compensation. 23% is employee retirement and insurance benefits. So that adds up to, we're over 80% salary and benefits. That's very common. Some districts are even more than that. But when you think 80% of a $38 million budget, that doesn't leave a lot of wiggle room for our purchase services, our instructional supplies, and things like that. So our major expenditures, we just talked about this. Salary and wages last year were just under 60% fringes, and that is retirement, Medicare, health insurance, dental insurance, life insurance, I already said Medicare. So all of the insurance categories plus retirement and Medicare. Fringe benefits, again, 21, they're going up to 23% in the last year's forecast. Purchase services sit right around 12.1 to 12.6 throughout the forecast. So those three categories then are over 93% of the budget. And then I have a little note there. The total is 94.39 then in fiscal '27. So we gain less than 1.5% in those expenditures. So here is just a very good graphic depiction of what's happening with total salaries and fringe benefits from year 15, fiscal year 15, through the forecast. And I apologize, but I chose the graph that shows fiscal 26 and not including fiscal 27. But the same thing is happening. If our salaries are supposed to be near 26 million in fiscal 27, and our benefits are cresting 10 million in fiscal 27, you see again the trend line is increasing. Go ahead. So one of the things in the forecast, which is line 3.05, is our capital expenditures, our capital outlay. We are currently reworking the capital plan for the next 5 to 10 years. And it's not something that could be completed for the forecast. It's something that's kind of a living, breathing document. But what we do know for fiscal '23 is that it's going to be approximately 1.4 million, and in fiscal 2024, it's going to be about 1.7 million. The things that are included often in our capital outlay are buses. We've been buying between 3 and 5 buses every year since just before I started 4 years ago. So our fleet is far newer than it used to be. We will continue at the rate of 2 to 3 buses per year. We have summer projects that are cash outlays. Now, these are projects that are funded solely from the general fund, because that's what's required to be on the 5-year forecast. But we also have projects that are funded from the permanent improvement levy, and we also have projects that are funded through an 034 maintenance fund that was established with the co-funded projects with the state of Ohio. Fiscal 25, 26, and 27, and we don't know anything more than this is what we have identified for projects, 325,000, 125, and then the same in fiscal 27. Go ahead. So this is, orange is total expenditure, the blue bar is the total revenue, and the yellow line is the cash balance. You can see since 2015 that we have built cash balance. It's dropped a bit, it's picked back up. By the end of the forecast, we have declining cash balance that's due to deficit spending. And again, I don't want anyone to be afraid of deficit spending, because it's very common in public entities. It's very common in school districts. And we model it this way because we don't know that revenue is going to exceed expenditures. So, go ahead. I just want to reiterate that the forecast that's been presented is very conventional. Our district projects revenues very conservatively. We take many factors into consideration, including our historical trends and things such as the current economic conditions. We have a stable financial position, and we will throughout the forecast. We have much to be grateful for: our talented and dedicated staff, students, and incredible community. High level, I presented a high level forecast. At the end of the forecast, we are projecting over $8 million cash, which is still healthy, which is still 3 months cash, which is our board policy. Does anybody have any questions? Yes.
How does, I guess this, our salaries are a big piece of the pie, so how does our current, I guess, teacher population or credentials, how does that like tie in?
I believe that you've seen a presentation that I've done before on district profiles. And this is some of the information that feeds down to the Department of Education. Of course, all of our teacher EMIS information, so all of our staff information, such as their teaching credentials, are reported to the state periodically. So the state knows that more than 80% of our professional teaching population has a master's or above. So that moves teachers over column. So our columns along the top are education, starts at bachelor's, and it ends, I believe, BA 45, BA plus 45, 7 columns. And then there are like 25 experience steps. So if teachers don't get any further education, they always move an experience step each year, right? And that is, for the district, approximately 2.1%. So every teacher moving a step each year is about 2.1%. But as teachers move columns, so as they get greater education, they concentrate down at the lower right side of the salary schedule. So our salaries, our teacher salaries, are a great deal more than the state average. So that absolutely impacts our compensation line. But we want our teachers to be highly educated. We want them to be highly qualified. That's why we have a very effective, group of student learning, is because of our teaching staff. Any other questions?
I just have a question. I know that some school districts are struggling with with the amount of money they're receiving from their property taxes. And that has nothing to do with us, it has to do with people paying their taxes. We have not seen that, is that?
We've not had any material number of delinquencies reported to us. But what I will share is last month, when I was presenting September financials to the board, just before the meeting, I looked at line 2, which is public utility personal property dollars. It's about $1.5 million. I think $1,534,000 is what's in the forecast. And I noticed that we had a very, very small amount, like $20,000 posted to that account. Well, I didn't want to draw too much attention to it at the meeting because I wasn't sure what was going on there. Had I keyed a number wrong or whatever? So I went back and I looked, and we did not receive in August with the settlement, we did not receive the personal property, the tangible personal property from utilities. The 4 largest taxpayers did not pay on time. They paid after the deadline. So we only have like 25 or 26,000 posted to line 2 in revenue right now. So I'm hoping we receive over 1.5 with the next settlement in March. So I'm not aware of any delinquencies right now, but I am aware that utilities paid after the
You might want
deadline.
to check with the auditor's office, because I know that there are certain districts that are really concerned about the number of people in the arrears per se. And I don't know exactly what all school districts, but we have not had that discussion. But I thought it might be in our best interest for you to make sure that you're going to get the money you think you're going to get and not be shorted, because that would certainly have an impact on us immediately.
Yes, and that's another thing, as you take home and spend a multitude of hours studying the forecast, you'll notice that line 1 and line 2, which are real estate and the public utility, personal property, those are held steady throughout the forecast. And in the assumptions and in a couple of other documents and in graphs and such, you'll notice that Lorraine County, on average, had a 16% increase in assessed valuation in 2021. That was due much in part to the market. We had lower interest rates, we didn't have a broken supply chain, people were selling their homes and buying up, and people were building. That's all slowed, and interest rates have done that, and broken supply chains have done that, and lack of labor has done that. So I don't anticipate that we will continue to see double-digit increases in assessed valuation. And again, that's a very conservative approach. I could put anything on paper, but I don't think that it is prudent to paint a picture that's so favorable that we end up in a few years with a very different. We know local school districts that the reality, the actual results have been far less favorable than what was painted in the forecast. And I don't want to do that to us and to the community.
Thank you.
Yes?
Any other questions on the 5-year forecast? We have some recommendations, Madam Treasurer?
Yes, sir. I would like for the board to approve the board meeting minutes from the October 17th regular meeting. You have with you this evening exhibits 9A, B, C, and D. That is the cash reconciliation, the financial summary by Funding Special Cost Center, forecast line item reports, and the accounts payable checks that were issued in October. Item C, we have 3 different appropriation increases. One is a brand new grant, and that is a tech grant. And then we have the tournament fund, which the Auditor of State's office, say 10 years ago, required districts to use Fund 022 for any tournaments, OHSAA tournaments, sectionals, etc. They've changed their mind now, and they want us to run that through the 300 District Managed Athletics Fund. So we're reducing that appropriation. And then we're increasing the athletics appropriation that by that $36,000 as well. And then item D is the 5-year forecast, which I've just presented, and item E are the donations listed.
Would you entertain motions for items 9A through E?
So moved.
The motion and the second, is there comments or discussion on any of the items? Hearing or seeing none, please call the roll.
Mrs. Gillis? Aye. Mrs. Wackel? Aye. Dr. Messer?
Aye.
Mr. Engel?
Aye. It's time we would have the superintendent's report, Mr. Mulder.
Yes, just want to give a couple quick updates, no slides or presentations. We had a great one with Chris Apples. Thank you, Sarah. She did a phenomenal job. So just 3 quick updates. One is just to keep you updated on the progress of the head football coach search. So we did a really good search and put some materials out there and kind of contacted people to become involved. And we have about 22 applicants so far. We started to screen those applicants. I was doing some this evening before the meeting, and about 6 more after this meeting. So we're going to screen those applicants. We're doing Zoom and meeting with all of them. And our goal is by next week on Monday, we've asked everyone to set aside. We're planning on doing an interview process where we're going to have 2 panels, which I don't think we've ever done before. So we're going to have 2 panels involving some community members, athletic association president, quarterback club president, a few other key people in the community, coaches in the district. I've also asked Mrs. Gillis and Dr. Messer to join us as well because they're on the extracurricular activities committee. So we're going to do something we've probably never done before, which is really have some good questions and community input and some feedback from people within the community and parents and football staff as well. So I'm looking forward to that, and then we'll move on from there. So that's a quick update about the head football coach search. Also wanted to mention just an hour ago, got an email. We submitted for the K through 12 safety grant 2 years ago. And so first we didn't receive it, but then remember beginning last year, the governor put $100 million toward those, and he funded all of those who applied, which we did apply. Well, the second half was also for new projects, which of course we applied for new projects as well, and just received an email an hour ago that we received the max amount you could receive as a district, $300,000. So the first part was going to security cameras in all the buildings, which we still need to do steel. The second part is to look at doors, locks, rekeying the entire district possibly, putting in other safety features for scanning cards for students and staff and other things. So really excited about that for our safety security. I think that's all I have. I have one more thing, but I can't remember. If I remember it, I'll just sit up there. That's okay.
You better be fast.
So we know you have a presentation?
I have no presentation. My presentation, I jumped to the beginning of the board agenda this time. So I will have something for December, but right now.
No, what do you have for us? Anything else?
Good?
You're not selling us anything?
No. Selling? Right.
Telling, I said, not selling.
Selling, yeah.
I thought he said selling too.
Right?
I was like, are you
Telling you anything, you're not selling.
I'm sure I could come up with something. She's got a kitty cat for sale.
I don't usually bring it, but
The JVS report. Just quickly, at the meeting last month, we had a discussion about, you've all been asking about what we're planning on doing as we move forward with possible levy concerns or moving forward with the levy. The Facilities Planning Commission group from the JVS has been working diligently on revising the project list of the JVS so that we can move forward with getting rebids, because we know what we had bid initially is not going to be enough or be able to allow us to do everything that we wanted to do with that. So it was approved that we would let that go out to a facilities group who would rebid most of those projects or make recommendations, and hopefully by the December board meeting, if not by the December board meeting, the January board meeting, that we will have some input so that we can then make some decisions about, but tentatively, the current board, knowing that that board may change in January, because there will be some that may or may not come back depending on their home schools. We'll possibly have something on the ballot next November, a year from now. So that's kind of the big picture of where we are, looking at what we're going to do there. The other item is the board of the JVS would like to invite the Amherst Board of Education to have a board meeting at the JVS. 2 districts have done that already. Wellington has done that, and so has Sheffield. They have held a board meeting there. They will provide you with dinner that evening. I'm not sure where the dinner comes from, Teresa, so don't get all excited, okay? It has come from different places. But I told them that I'm certain that the Amherst School Board would be willing to travel to the JVS on a Monday evening for one of the regular board meetings. So we might want to think about that as we put together our calendar for meetings in '23, because we're not going to go in December, okay? Is there any questions for me? You all received the cookie order form, I believe, so that you can order your cookies.
I don't think I saw that.
You didn't see that? Well, you should know about it.
I do, just.
Okay.
Just because he was.
It was an email, I believe. I thought I emailed every one of you that form.
I got it.
Well, it's too late now, I'm sorry if you didn't get it, okay?
How dare you.
Morgan should be the first one. She takes it off. Her husband works there.
I don't order it.
So that is done. Poinsettia sales began Monday, this past Monday, 2 days, today. Well, today's Monday.
Yeah, today's Monday, yeah.
Poinsettia sales began today, and they will go until they run out from that perspective. So if you want poinsettias, you can certainly go to the JVS and purchase your poinsettias or your centerpieces or whatever you would like to do. You can't order them, you just have to go, okay?
The people who have had their board meetings there, did they get like a good turnout of extra people, or is it just like, we're just here?
No, they've had a couple people, not a lot of people. The best part about that, the feedback that we have received, is that the tour that you're going to receive will be done by an Amherst student. Okay? It's not done by an administrator or anyone. The tour that you receive is done by an Amherst student or
We've gone there in the past, and I really enjoy walking through, because I don't ever go there very often, so it's really nice to be able to walk through and see.
So the feedback has been they learned a lot about the program that the student is in, okay, from that perspective, but they did see the overall process. But that has been the highlight from both of them, the student who's given the tour, and how proud they are of what they are doing at the JVS. So, the public would know that they're meeting there, but there hasn't been a lot of people come. However, the open house was phenomenal, that they had just a couple Sundays ago, or Saturdays ago. Huge numbers for that. So, and that's why it's important that we continue to move forward with how we're going to. It was interesting because one of the superintendents that was there, after the fact, at Capitol Conference, was talking with some other JVS board members and said, I don't know why you just don't tear the building down and build a new building. And it was interesting when that was said, because that was proposed a couple of years ago from someone who was appalled that anyone would think that. But it came out to be that superintendent said, I don't know how you guys do some of the things you do in the building that you're in. So that's just a little sidebar for you all. Okay? Any questions for me on the JVS? If not, we would go on to board updates or committee reports. Dr. Messer, you have an update for us?
Yes, I'll try to be brief, but there's a lot going on. Thank you. So this past election, we have the same senator and representative. We do have a new state board of education member, Teresa Fior, out of Toledo. That's exciting. She's a big proponent for public schools and fighting, state takeovers in House Bill 70. Next, please, ma'am. So Lame Duck has started the 15th, and OSBA's main focus will be restoration of school districts' ability to conduct raffles. And also, there was this one little thing about extension of the storm shelter moratorium. So I guess that requires school districts to build one, or if they don't have one. And their concern, OSBA's concern, is the expense that that we would incur and not really use those storm shelters. So they're looking at those two things. 5, 6 years old. Yeah, so we're trying to extend it again. I think that's from what, 2018 or something?
Maybe even a little before that, yes, but it was for the most part, regarding the co-funded projects with the Facilities Commission and the cost associated with it.
Yep, so they're concerned about the cost, most definitely. Next slide, please. So other focus areas are House Bill 333, which requires the Ohio Department of Education to make a formal job description for day counselors. House Bill 492, coaches are required to complete student mental health training. House Bill 497 would eliminate student retention under the third grade reading guarantee, and it will return the requirement decisions back to individual districts and parents. And House Bill 582, they want to restrict school board member terms for 2 years and introduce party affiliations. And the OSBA delegation this time around voted against that, so they will be lobbying against that House bill. Next one, I won't go through all that, but that is the House Bill 151, the Ohio Teacher Residency Program. So, of course, everyone knows there's a shortage in teachers and also retaining teachers after the coronavirus epidemic. And so they are trying to have new measures to make it easier for people to get their certification, or if it expired, make it easier to come back to work if they want to come back to work. Those sorts of things. Provide professional development for people who want to return back to teaching. And right now they're waiting for committee referral in the Senate. The next bill is House Bill 554, and it will require the state board to issue non-renewable 2-year temporary licenses to people with expired certificates, issue professional educator licenses to individuals with temporary licenses if they completed specific coursework. And right now it's pending in the Senate Primary and Secondary Education Committee. Next, please, is House Bill 606, which would require schools to create individual seizure action plans for students that have a active diagnosis. It will require at least one employee at each school to be trained on implementing those plans. It will provide qualified immunity and a civil action suit arising from providing care while they're at school. And also, it is pending in the Senate Primary and Secondary Education Committee. And I think the last, and that's the last one. So what OSBA is asking for local districts to do are to stay engaged, answer calls of action, speak with local legislators about any specific district concerns, and also share about how districts have used emergency COVID money. I know the session I went to with Senator Brenner, they were talking about that, like, yeah, we need to look at how schools have been using that money, so we may want to kind of, look at that and make sure we're prepared to answer any questions, because it seems like they, yep, I'm sure we are, if we stay ready, so that's awesome. And then begin conversation around the biennial budget, and just become familiar with the legislative platform. So obviously they don't have 2023 out yet because things were just voted on at Capitol Conference. So hopefully, I don't know when that'll come out, but I'll share whenever it comes out. And I think that's about it. There's a few more updates from this week regarding Title IX and some other things like that, but I can include that next report.
Questions for Dr. Mesa?
I don't know, it's all good.
Thank you. Oh, that was great.
That's awesome. Good information.
No questions? The next update is the Capitol Conference update. Everyone can share what they liked, didn't like, all the good things about that. Amanda, would you like to start? Would you?
Oh, more.
No, I have a list. You should start that one.
I think just because you already talked about some of this, and a lot of that was there, so would you like to share your highlights from the conference?
The positives, I have two big ones. First was the Student Achievement Fair. It was really awesome seeing younger and older students with their moves and also performing. Hopefully we can get some groups there. I know Morgan's working on that for next year. I think our robotics, kiddo science people. Well, I hung out with all the STEM people, so that's why I'm biased. So I went to all those groups and stuff, and it was great seeing all the young girls doing robotics and stuff. I really love that. And then also, I think we could easily get one of our choral ensembles or small orchestra or band students to be on the main stage. I think easily we can do that. So I really like that one. The other one was just a sense of collaboration and willing to have uncomfortable conversations around education and what's going on with politicizing, just learning. So that was really awesome. And then the one negative was going to that case law workshop. I mean, you have to learn what people are facing, and so we can protect our students and protect our teachers and admins, but that was very depressing, so.
You won't be going to that next year?
I don't know. That was, very sad, so, but that was my highs and.
Okay, who else would like to share?
We'll just go ahead and go to Morgan, she's got a list, so we can listen to it.
Any takeaways?
No, I'll let you do the talking.
So, my low of the thing was I was disappointed that our delegate didn't get to the assembly because in our orientation meeting, which I know Amanda and I went to since it was our first time at Capitol Conference, we didn't know what to expect, it was just made very prominent, like, this is the most important thing because we vote at state level, and pretty much like only 10 or 15% of districts actually send their person. So that means only 10 or 15% of districts are having a say in what happens at the state level. So I think that as the five of us, we need to prioritize that going forward, and make sure that we're sending someone to the assembly to vote on all the things that Amanda was just mentioning. So that was my low, and then the highs were Student Achievement Fair. I thought that was great. So as Student Achievement Liaison, which I really didn't know what to do with that title, but I made sure to find Kim Miller-Smith, who's the one in charge of that at the state level, just kind of talked to her a little bit. She gave me all kinds of information on getting our students, like you were saying, like a booth or performing or whatever. They only choose one school to perform from each area of the state.
So that would be more difficult to like get someone there, but that absolutely doesn't mean we shouldn't apply and try to get choir, band, orchestra, somebody. And that is, like I said, more of a process to get into, but we could send anyone at any age level, because she was saying they are really trying to like fill that whole space with all kinds of booths, and if you want to be there, you can be there. So I'm going to make sure that I get the registration information to like all 4 buildings, because they had little second, first graders showing their after-school projects of like, they had biography club, and they would go and like, they were adorable. They had been very like trained like to go up and talk to people. There was a little girl who came up to me like as I walked by, she goes, "My name is Sabrina, can I show you my project?" And I was like, "Absolutely, let's go see it." And so she like shook my hand, and it was adorable, and she like showed me everything, and I read her essay. It was so cute. So it could be like, I think you were saying rocks, like I know rocks was at the trade show portion, but if we wanted to send like Ms. Kramer and some of the girls to like talk about rocks, that would be wonderful. There was a med tech group there that was talking about how they got phlebotomy training before graduation. So there's like there's robotics like you were saying, so there's a wide gamut of things that could be shown, and I think we should absolutely be represented next year. The next thing was, you just mentioned you got all that money, so I'm just saying it. There was somebody, I mentioned to Mr., I mentioned in the past that I was curious if we had door locks on every door in the district, classroom door, for a lockdown situation, and I didn't love the answer that I got, which was like, I don't know. And so that is a company that's in Ohio, it's made in Ohio. We have that money to like use for this specific purpose. So if that's something that we could look into, I think that would be great. Sorry, I got like all confused for it. I really liked seeing National Teacher of the Year Kurt Russell, who's just from Oberlin, speak. I thought that was really inspiring. I thought it was amazing that he's been in the same classroom from day one when he entered that building, and it like just goes to show like how support and consistency for faculty can like really help them like flourish and grow, and obviously he's top of the pile, so that's great. And then the last thing was I went to the session that MINU's superintendent and assistant were giving, and it was about social emotional learning. And they were just talking about all kinds of good ideas of how they've embedded it into everything they do, again, from like kindergarten up. And just one example of an idea that they did was they had a PD day for students. And so everyone came to school, but the teachers decided like what they wanted to teach the kids. So it was everything from like how to boil an egg, or how to tie a tie, or how to change a tire, like all of these things that like I think we kind of look over these days because we're doing technology stuff and not so much hands-on stuff. But it's like good life skills, and the kids had a great time for the day. They got to choose whatever it was, like 5 or 6 things that they wanted to learn. And he was saying that the students just loved like, you know, your math teacher is teaching you how to like change a tire. And they're like, I didn't know you could do that. And so it gave the students another way to like bond with staff and faculty as well. So I don't know, there was just lots of good ideas. I was glad I got to go, and yeah, I'm gonna make sure that Amherst is more represented in the Student Achievement Fair next year.
Teresa?
Thank you, I'll pass.
Franklin?
No, I think we worked on that, some ideas. Also, I talked to Doug too about, there's a specific, I can't remember which district it is, but there's a specific district that has been recording Gap Conference for like a decade. You know, and it's a high school, of course, like our students live program, whatever. But we talked about seeing if there's a spot where we can take our Comments Live, which is mostly junior high kids, down there to maybe do some recording for that conference. And so that's one thought we had too. And we do some things for, like I'd love to see the choir go down, see if they can perform. And Rocks, I'd love to see Rocks go down and share the program. That'd be really cool. So we can definitely work on that. But for me, it was just meeting with all of you and talking and getting your input and ideas and thoughts, and seeing, connecting with other superintendents, and other treasurers, and other, you know, central office people down there, the board members who just are sharing what they're doing in their districts. And idea and things you can bring back. So that was the highlight for me, of course. Sarah? Amy?
There was this presentation that was done about building the perfect team. That was pretty great.
7845138.
Oh, my goodness.
Amy, something you would like to share?
I think that Capital Conference was a great experience for the board this year. We all did some upfront planning, and I'm glad that Morgan and Amanda went to the orientation. It was a good thing. First timers, it's always important, I think. And we spent quite a bit of time together as a group, and I just think it was a positive experience. And we presented well. We saw a lot of great presentations. We had professional membership meetings, all of us, Mike, Sarah, and I, and all of that. So it was just a good experience this year.
It's always a good experience, and I think that, you never know, you can go with an agenda, what you think you're going to do, but that agenda changes drastically. And sometimes it's for the good, and sometimes it's for the bad. I mean, Amanda had an experience
It's okay,
with case
fine.
law.
Oh, okay. Oh, I thought you were going to say the hair thing, never mind.
In case law. I went to a session that I thought was going to be really informative and upbeat, and about 15 minutes into it, I thought, okay, this is not at all what I thought it was going to be, because it was about building community collaboration with school districts. And it turned into a session about health clinics in schools, okay? And if you recall, a few years back, we had talked about opening a health clinic through Mercy in a school building, or in some of our school buildings. And there was nothing positive that was happening in there. They all started out positive, but then the funding got cut, and then the hospital, and exactly what we thought at the time, there was not enough money being generated, so the hospital or the clinic pulled out because they're not making any money from that perspective. So, they're staffing that, and the only reason they would continue to staff that if the school was going to pay for it. So it was not touchy-feely, let's make the community feel good. It was a downer to the community. And I think there were more people that left before I left.
I didn't see you in there because I was in that same one, but I stayed.
Well, I was in the back. I was right when you walked in by the door, the first row is where I was. You said you left, but.
No, I didn't leave. I
Oh.
stayed.
But I was in there, and I didn't think that it was, you stayed for the whole thing? So it didn't get any better?
No.
So I was okay with it. But just meeting with the people and talking to people as you walk through all of the trade shows, or you walk through the Achievement Center. Of course, hearing Mr. Russell speak was an excitement, I think. The key point in that I thought was the neatest thing of his whole talk was how he focused on his kindergarten teacher, who influenced his life to become a teacher. Francine still is alive today and is in Oberlin. And I just thought that was phenomenal, that she had, in the kindergarten level, had such an impact on that young man to have him do what he's doing today. So I think, and her foresight as an educator, talking about what she talked about to do that, I just thought was a great piece in that. But it's always fun. It's a lot of work, even though people don't think it's a lot of work, it's a lot of work. And I'm sure you were tired when you were done at the end of the day, as most of us are. But it's always a good experience. So thank all of you for going. And before you know it, it'll be here again soon.
Yep.
Okay? So, any other committee reports that we need to talk about, or any other updates or discussion that the board would like to talk about at this time? If not, we would move to item number 12, personnel recommendations.
All right, well, thank you first off for participating in all the presentations tonight and sharing. I appreciate it for everyone staying. Recommend personnel items A through H, and they're pretty much standard items, mostly either new hires or transitions from a 30, 60-day probationary contract to a continuing contract. I will point out item F is our landscapers do not work full year. They work pretty much from March to November, but we do utilize them sometimes during the winter, like if there's a major storm and they come in to help us plow or move snow or other projects that we have that are kind of external with some of our facilities outside. So we just ask you that you approve them to get paid. If we ask them to come in, their regular job rate, and they've always done that. So I wanted you to definitely approve that. So with that, unless there are any questions, I'd like the board to approve personnel items A through H.
So moved.
Second? We have a motion and a second. Is there comments or discussion on items 12A through H? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Mrs. Gillis.
Aye.
Mrs. Buckles.
Aye.
Dr. Messer.
Aye.
Mr. Engel.
Educational recommendations?
Yeah, there's just 3 items for this evening. Do want to point out, the varsity hockey team participating in a tournament at Miami University this weekend. They were invited right after our last board meeting, and so obviously we can't really approve that till this board meeting, which took place. But that's why the board gives me authority to approve things and take care of things between board meetings, like when this kind of thing comes up. So when we received this this item, I was able to sign it myself to make sure it was approved for the trip, and so it was a successful trip. So, but we do want you to approve it after the fact, so we appreciate that. So with that, just want you to approve items 13A through 13C.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there comments or discussion?
I do.
Yep.
So, first is the Steel News Live trip. I was just looking over the agenda, and there's not a lot of actually going to broadcasting places. Well, there was a few places where it said they might, but it also said, like, in parentheses, like, if we can. So what is the backup plan if you can't, other than shopping?
Well, there's a couple of enrichment activities, like the NBC Studios tour and the Today Show were the 2 that we, are most likely going to be able to go. But then there's other places like the Empire State Building, which has a lot of historical, cultural stuff, Statue of Liberty trip. There's Madame Tussauds, which is, entertaining, but also, kind of like the cultural, historical aspects, the way that you can, when we went there the last time, it's like a lot of history along with all of the, presidents that are waxed, but you get the history lesson. So there's a lot of like the culture enrichments, the landmarks, things like that. So that's the overall basis of it. But our hope is the blizzard, that's why we're going to March this year, because we had 3 blizzards and one of them were on the weekend we did. So we decided to move it. So the hope is that, like, we weren't able to do it last year, but a couple years ago we did. We spent like 3 hours at the Today Show and talked to the crew and the anchors, and they didn't rush us out of there. So Katie Prim, who is an alum of, so she's, so hopefully we'll be able to get in there. But if not, there's a lot of the cultural enrichment type stuff that we do, and the kids learn a lot about, get the whole kind of experience of that, so.
I just, when reading through the actual agenda, the tour company wrote, and if we can't do that, we'll go shopping. I was like,
Oh, yeah, that's definitely tour guide wording, but yeah, we definitely, we work it to make sure that's that cultural enrichment stuff, though, yeah.
And in the past, you do some stories on that when you come back.
Yeah, they
So
all,
they actually have some assignments.
and they'll
they
always,
used to.
they always usually do that, like a highlight reel or some features, things like that, and then, so there's there's a lot of different reasons, things like that, so.
I was in
Yeah.
Stone's life before they did a New York trip, so
Oh.
living vicariously through it. And then my other question was about the course fees that were being approved. I know in there was the pay to participate. I didn't know if there's space to have discussion on that at all, or if it could be tabled for discussion until our next meeting, which is only a couple weeks away or something, because I'm not ready for that.
Discussion for what?
For just like the pay to participate at the high school level, and if there's wiggle room to adjust it.
We can certainly have a discussion about that. I don't know that we're prepared to have that discussion tonight. I know that we have a presentation about what it covers, costs to do that. So we can just vote on, we can just move that whole item to the next agenda. So we just withdraw it from this agenda. And then we can have a presentation about that. If you have some specific amount that you were thinking that we should look at, we can certainly entertain that and look at it. But I think that once you receive the presentation, that you're going to see that it doesn't even cover a third of what the actual cost is, especially with the price of gasoline and fuel costs going up.
I think Morgan has that's a great point. I mean, to be able to show the presentation so people can see it again, to see just exactly what you were saying.
So we can do that, it's not a problem. So we'll just strike item C, because we're gonna meet on the 12th. So, yeah, it's not gonna be anything that's gonna impact what's going to happen, and we can show that and then have a discussion about that.
Can we have a motion and a second to table this?
Yes, make the motion to table that in a second. So we're tabling item C under 13 to move to the next board agenda. We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion or comments? None, please call the roll.
Mrs. Gillis. Aye. Mrs. Wackels. Dr. Messer.
Aye.
Mr. Engel.
Aye. We still have on the floor the original motion of 13A and B, correct? Is there any further discussion on items A or B? Hearing or seeing none, please call the roll.
Mrs. Gillis. Aye. Dr. Messer.
Aye.
Mrs. Wackels. Mr. Engel.
Item 14, business recommendations.
Yeah, 3 items there. Real quick, the first one is the NORD agenda that they send with students. So there's a contract that goes with that. I think it's probably for savings. Also, B, our library in Amherst is the school library, which in Ohio revised code, we're the board is responsible for appointing trustees to the school library as the school library trustee. With that being said, the school library's trustees actually manage and control all of the decisions. Right? So basically, the trustees have come and said, "Can we renew Jim York's?" I think I talked to Don DeValo today, who said he's been on board for been trustee for 2 terms. So he's been there for 14 years. So they want to do another 7-year. Have another 7-year term for him for a trustee. So that's why he's on the agenda to be approved. And then also tonight we're approving an agreement with Rockwell Financial Consulting. And once that's signed and approved tonight, I told Dave Conley that I would send it to him and he could start discussing things with the county tomorrow for the tip. So once that's approved, we'll move forward with that as well.
So we entertain a motion for 14A through C.
So moved. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion or comment?
I just wanted to thank Mr. Wilmer for explaining that to me prior to the meeting about the trustee, because I didn't really understand how it worked, so thank you for that.
It's just that we have to do that legally. We have no say. I mean, whatever they do. But it's just the way the law was written at the time. And I'm sure it would cost millions to change it today. Any other discussion or comments? If not, please call the roll.
Mrs. Gillis. Aye. Mrs. Wackels. Dr. Messer.
Aye.
Mr. Engel.
Is there any other business that needs to come before the board this evening? If not, we entertain a motion for adjournment. In a second?
Second.
We have a motion in a second. Please call the roll.
Mrs. Wackels. Dr. Messer.
Aye.
Mrs. Gillis. Aye. Mr. Engel.
Aye.